One of the Wachowski sisters, formerly a Wachowski brother, is adapting a novel into a movie. It's called Manhunt. It was written by a trans woman named Gretchen Felker Martin, and it came out a couple of years back. The Wachowski sisters, by the way, they are biological males who identify as females, and queer filmmaking is a really important thing for them. They feel very strongly about that. So Lilly Wachowski admitted that pornography made him trans and is now making a show out of Manhunt, the book written by another trans woman. And it features sexual violence, cross-dressing men, murdering TERFs, and J.K. Rowling dying horribly.
When I hear all this, I'm like, but where's the joy?
Yeah, where's all that trans joy and the queer joy you were talking about?
Not even just that, but when you hear that pitch, you're like, who is this for?
I think I know who it's for. It's all of the J.K. Rowling haters who are obsessed with her.
There are a lot of them.
There is a market for it.
There is a market for that.
Like it or not. So the author of this novel, Gretchen Felker Martin, tweeted, "The cat's out of the bag, baby. I'm adapting Manhunt for TV with Lilly Wachowski, and I couldn't be prouder and more excited to be writing it. We're going to do our damnedest to bring this thing kicking, screaming, and queer as hell onto the screen." So if you, like myself, were unfamiliar with the plot of this novel, let me explain it for you. Manhunt is set in a post-apocalyptic world where a virus transforms individuals with high levels of testosterone into feral men who exist solely to consume flesh and rape. The story follows Beth and Fran, two characters who I assume are trans women who are biologically male. They travel the ravaged New England coast, hunting these feral men and harvesting their organs to prevent their own transformation. They eventually form a found family with Robbie, a survivor who lives by his gun and a hard-learned motto, "Other people aren't safe." As they navigate this treacherous world, they must confront murderous TERFs, trans-exclusionary radical feminists, a sociopathic billionaire bunker brat, and I assume that refers to J.K. Rowling, and their own demons, of which there are many. So it is true that this novel does include a scene of J.K. Rowling violently dying. The selling point Gretchen Felker Martin gave for Manhunt is, if you're sick of gender-plagued novels written by transphobic dipshits, try my novel Manhunt, written by a trans woman for a trans audience, so you know who it's for. Trans D slurs, fall in love, and F, and murder TERFs, feral men maraud in the wilderness, J.K. Rowling dies, etc. So that's the selling point, is you get to fantasize about J.K. Rowling meeting a violent end, as well as other biological females. So that sounds completely unhinged. Back when this novel came out, there was some controversy about it, but I didn't see it personally. The writer came under fire for this specific scene of J.K. Rowling. The protagonists in the book talk about her as the Harry Potter lady, referring to her. They say Harry Potter lady ended up being a crazy TERF, like super intense. They say in the book that Rowling hired military contractors and had them all up at her castle in Scotland, where she lives. One of the group knocked over a lamp, sparking a fire and an explosion that left J.K. Rowling and the others to burn alive, and finally the whole castle collapsed. The TERFs, also in this book, use a warship that is called the Galbraith, which very on the nose refers to J.K. Rowling's pen name, Robert Galbraith.
The Cormoran Strike books.
Yes. And this author brags about writing, quote, "the most disgusting books in the English language, books about sexual revulsion, body horror, and how violence forms and fits into our lives." So that's essentially everything you need to know about this person.
It doesn't.
You should be on a watch list.
It doesn't do what zombie horror does in the way that it brings people together, because when human beings go through a zombie apocalypse, there's gendered aspects, I guess. Men might be better at getting away from, walkers or zombies or anything like that, right? Yeah. But think about the emotions that people feel, like say somebody gets bitten and then they hide it. It's a natural human emotion. It's not gendered to want to hide that happened to you. Mm-hmm. This takes all of these aspects that could be used to unify an audience and say, oh, this isn't exactly me, but it speaks to an aspect of humanity. And it takes that and then it sectors it off and completely divides it and turns it into something that's so small as far as who it's trying to reach that you have to wonder how big of an audience that can even draw anyways, depending on how specific they get in adapting the story. And then how financially successful do you expect something like that to be, depending on how violent it is, right? So people love violent movies and television shows, but if you make it gendered violence and you focus it along the lines of trans issues, it's not going to pull in general audiences. Then who gets blamed when all of it falls apart? That's more what I'm interested in. Is it the transphobes who get blamed when a show like this doesn't do the numbers they want it to?
Right. I mean, which one is going to be more successful? The HBO Max Harry Potter show that J.K. Rowling is intensely involved in?
Or The Last of Us will be more successful
this TV show about like violent fantasies of murdering women from a man who identifies as a woman. It's dicey because you can't even like talk about this stuff openly. But this person can put their book out on all the mainstream platforms, get it propped up and platformed by Hollywood, by a big name director. I mean, the Wachowski sisters, are they're not nobodies. Like, they have a rap sheet. So it's just, it's very telling about where we're at as a culture. And that there would even be a prospective audience for this.
You can thank streaming for like the existence of streaming for making shows like this possible. This doesn't get adapted to a film and go to mainstream theaters. Not in my opinion. This never goes to theaters, right?
Yeah, I originally thought that it was going to be like a streaming movie. It's actually going to be a show. I don't know all of the details yet. But
why do that when you can make 28 Days Later Part 5, which they're actually in the process, 28 years later that they're making?
Yes.
Right now. So there's infinitely better stories that can deal with topics that are adjacent to this, whether it's the apocalypse, whether it's zombies, whether it's viral outbreak.
No, but the point isn't, the virus or even who the characters are, their personalities. The point isn't that it's a post-apocalyptic story. The point of it is literally just relishing the idea of enacting disgusting levels of violence against women. That's what gets this author off sexually. I mean, it's very clear. It's essentially what this person has said publicly about these stories. So the story is irrelevant.
Can you read the first part of the description for the story again? Just the main hook.
That it's a set in a post-apocalyptic world where a virus transforms individuals with high levels of testosterone into feral men who exist solely to consume flesh and rape.
Okay, if you leave out the rape part, you could actually make like a general story out of this. That could be very interesting. And Hollywood loves effeminate men. They could even do a story with one woman and one effeminate man, and then they wonder why he's not affected. Right? And they navigate this, and it's not a gendered issue. It can invite all audiences, and they can work on, and they can work through a great story. But there's no hook there.
The point is to alienate.
Exactly.
The point is to be as shocking and vulgar as possible. Lilly Wachowski expressed her enthusiasm for this project, citing her commitment to telling queer and trans stories. The script, titled The Hunted, explores a resistance movement led by trans people in a murder mystery that infiltrates the highest levels of government. While no further details have been released about the adaptation's production timeline or release date, Wachowski's involvement ensures that the project will receive a thoughtful and nuanced approach.
Well, I saw that last Matrix movie. It was anything but nuanced.
Yeah. This is just like the height of overt narcissism and sociopathy.
It's narcissism, but also it's a symptom of Hollywood not knowing when to say no. Like, don't greenlight this project if there's no, or okay, how about this? Greenlight the project, but I don't want to hear any complaints from anyone when it doesn't find its audience. I don't.
You know what I think should happen? I think J.K. Rowling, who likely has already caught wind of this, should just launch the most ridiculous ass lawsuit against Lilly Wachowski and this author, Gretchen Felker Martin, for like emotional distress or something. You can do that in the UK. She has all the money in the world to spend on it. Just lawfare these people into silence. Because clearly they have no hesitation to do that to us. Yeah. They would have zero hesitation, zero ethical qualms with doing the same thing to her if they had the money and power to do so. So she should use her money and power and influence to essentially silence these people and whip them into submission. I mean, this should not be made. And she should do everything in her power to make it impossible for this to be made.
We'll have to wait and see.
Or if anything, I mean, I guess if that's not the approach, then the approach is to let them do their thing, and they'll put their mental illness out into the open for everyone to see and show their true colors. Because it should be known that these people are just sick in the head.
The average person will not see it that way. The average person will see it as, well, it's just art.
Yeah, it's just art. Therefore, you get the excuse to do and show whatever you want.
You're not gonna
even if
have,
it's based on a real person dying.
You're not going to have like a mask off moment that the general public is going to catch on to.
No. So then maybe lawfare is the answer.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.